Power on.
Real-time Sovryn is go.
Woo, the golden stallion, the man of tomorrow, Savzu, the rated R radio star, someone that has even been called Rabbi Sovryn. I don't know what that means, but anyway, we're going to run with it all because I am being joined today by a true wizard. No, really, if you're looking on YouTube or on Spotify's video feed, you're seeing it, but it is none other than the great and powerful JStar. JStar, man, welcome back to Real Time Sovryn.
Hello. I have aged significantly since last recording. I might have done something wrong.
Yeah. I mean, you got to put the ON before that. No, I knew. Yeah.
Some of that magic sigil stuff I was screwing around with, I may have tripped and fell. I'm not sure what happened, but
it'll get you. You know, if you use 8 candles instead of 7, you're fucked.
I don't know.
I love it. Yeah. So, which boy, I got to tell you. So, like, I get a lot of people asking me, like, why are you using Google Meet and all this stuff?
This is why.
This is why. If you could see, like, it's so cool. Like the dragon moving in the background on you,
and the beard is staying with the mouth, and the dragon's moving, and the trees. Like, come on now, why not?
Yeah, no, it's so good. Also, like, you know, I use Starlink, and sometimes like my connection will drop, and better than even Zoom or any of the other ones that I've used, like it doesn't kick me off the call. It just like, it really does just hold me amazingly.
It did well last time too.
Yeah, right. So, you know, I wish it could do where it showed us concurrently. Google Meet, as far as I've been able to find, cannot do that. In the recording, it can do that as we're recording, but not in the, like, what gets uploaded.
On my side, I can see us both on the same screen.
Exactly. Yeah, I wish it could do that, but otherwise, boy, it does a phenomenal job. You know, it comes with, and this is actually something we're going to talk about. I mean, I get, you know, basically unlimited recording time with this, so it doesn't cost me anything, in the sense that it comes with a package that is like an AI package through Google as well.
Yep.
So, and that's really going to lead right into what we want to talk about here, because last time you were on JStar, tremendous response from that episode, and I completely understand why. You're a brilliant guy. And so, you know, but a lot of people like got back to me and said, okay, you guys just convinced me to use some of these tools, some of these AI tools. As where I'd written them off. I was like, nah, this is horseshit and whatever. So now what do I use? You know, and I got multiple people who reached out to me about that. So I thought it'd be great to have you back on and to basically talk about, I mean, we'll get into other things, I'm sure, but I think talking about, okay, what is actually useful to use, because there's some that are, I mean, admittedly, there's some that are better than others, some that are might even be pure shit at this point, or at least severely superseded by other things.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, and again, a lot of these tools have only been around since what, 2022, 2023, really?
Best. Yeah, definitely. Late 2022 was, I think, when ChatGPT was landed, and it was okay.
Right.
But ever since then, it's been like everyone's on every kind of stimulant drug ever. AI.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I mean, some of these tools I think are really only thriving, and they are thriving, but they're thriving on name cache.
Like,
and we'll get it. Exactly. Yes. You took the words right out of my mouth. Because that's the thing. Okay. Yeah. Everybody uses ChatGPT, but it's like saying everybody uses Google, but they don't realize that actually, you know, looking for images, Bing is better, you know, which I say that lightly, and I try not to throw up, but I mean, it's true. So yeah, it's a matter of that name cache. And so that's something I think we will get to cut through as well. And I guess to give a quick little bit of background, I mean, not that we need to, you know, tell our life stories, you know, even though, I mean, if, you know, we have a few weeks, we can do that. No, but
I have quite a life behind me. I mean, look, like the beard and the hat. Everything.
Yeah. I mean, there are strange, there are strange stories that surround you, sir.
If I stroke the beard thusly, does it not make me seem more distinguished?
Yeah, right. I love it. Yeah. So, you know, but I mean, just to, I guess to be very quick about it, you and I think it's very safe to say we are power users. I mean, of whatever the fuck we jump on.
Yep.
We tinker hardcore, you know. If it was a previous generation, there would be solder smoke, you know, coming out of our ears, and we'd both smell like lead. Yeah. So we're just that way, and we've grown up. We're very similar in age, and we've grown up with these technologies. Like the interconnectivity. We've grown up with this world. We know the world before it was here, but then at the same time, we've been there, since the time a lot of this shit was implemented and created, right? I mean,
did you ever? Exciting time to see that transition. I think it's awesome to see, literally from phones hanging on walls with wires and my grandma's little dialing thing that was the phone in the house to wireless this, and it's ridiculous. The amount of things that change is ridiculous.
Exactly. I mean, we were there when, to go online,
God, I forgot.
Well, we heard the sound. We heard the computers screaming in pain.
Yeah.
It's what it sounded like. And maybe they were, and maybe that was meant to be a warning that we just didn't heed. It's like, oh shit. No, don't let me go online. It's going,
don't use AOL. Stay away.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder if that modem sound was a warning.
Oh man, it was so nice at the time. It was such a comforting sound. It brings me back to my early teenage years when I was messing around with this stuff. And then as technology evolved, I'm just like, now I hear it, I'm like, oh God. Oh my God. It's crazy how much things have evolved.
It is in really such a short period of time. It's unreal. And to be where we're at now with AI. Yes, I mean, just to get this out of the way, of course, people who have listened a lot, they already know this, or that I feel about this. Like, I actually kind of have a problem with it being called AI, but we're going to go with it. Okay. There's no Skynet here, folks. These are things that we're going to talk about. At first, we'll talk about the useful, then we'll talk about some warnings after that. But yeah, we're going to talk about genuinely useful tools that enhance things that really you're probably already doing anyway. Or you've always wanted to do, so it's not necessarily, I mean, it's innovative in one sense, but it's not necessarily innovative in that, like, holy shit, this is something completely new. Maybe we'll get into that because JStar does stuff. I mean, like I said, this man's a wizard and he does shit that, that used to only get put in the Necronomicon. But anyway, so, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about stuff that's useful. And what people can jump on with this, and maybe what you use. So JStar, you really have this meta, not in the sense of like Facebook, but like you have this great, I feel like, meta level tool that you use that just allows you to kind of do everything at once. And do you want to get into, if you have some commentary you want to get into before this, but if you want to tell me about Raycast, tell me about it.
For people that, so Raycast did not start out as an AI tool. They simply injected AI into it, like most things.
Everything is doing now.
For macOS, Raycast is a fantastic replacement for Finder. You do Command Space, it brings up Finder, you type shit in it. It is a far more functional version of that. And people write extensions for it or whatever. And then I think about a year or two ago, they started injecting AI into it. It was really, really basic.
Yep.
And then they upped the ante recently, where if you pay, it's $196 for the year, which I didn't pay for. I got an 8% discount by luck. But they give you access to literally all of the top tier models, GPT-4.1, Gemini, everything.
Yep.
And you can extend them. You can give them custom instructions, and the models feel, within Raycast, it's a very basic interface. They feel less tuned by someone else. You know what I'm saying? Like when you chat to ChatGPT, you're chatting through the transformer model as OpenAI is. How do I word this? As OpenAI is guiding you to do so. They have
you're in their guardrails that they have set up. Yeah, exactly.
Cursor is like that. Windsurf is like that. Those are coding IDEs. And that's one of the things that me at my level, I am a power user, but I'm still very much a novice, right? And when you become more familiar with these tools, you can tell when there are guardrails that are there, kind of getting in your way, right? And with Raycast, I don't feel that's as much of an issue. Like, and it's kind of instinctual, and when I mean that, by in the sense, like when I chat with a model in Raycast, versus somewhere else, it feels like a more, how do I word this in AI friendly terms, a genuine response, a less guarded response. There's still guardrails on it because they are getting sourced from OpenAI, but there's less commercialized ball jiggling going on there. You know, I don't feel someone's trying to tickle my taint for some commercialized reason, right?
Right.
I'm paying for access to all these frontier models, and one of the things I just did when we were talking about like dark patterns or whatever is I just asked, you know, in the raycast, and it gave me all these little, you know, good little snippets I would get. But you have to, the thing with raycast is you have to tell the model within raycast to use web, to use browser. So you have to use it more thoughtfully. You can't just like go to ChatGPT or go to Claude and expect that it's going to know to use all the tools. So raycast is just giving you a basket of refined material, and you put it together in a way that makes sense for you using what's in the basket.
Sure. Okay. So it sounds like, at least for some of them, raycast is literally like paying for the tokens to access these models.
Yep.
So it's not just like a front end for, you know, whatever, openai.com. Like
correct. Yeah, you're just using the raycast itself interface, so it looks familiar. It's skinned the same way, and you can even give the AI person, like I think I told you over Signal. I was using I named one Scotty, and I told it to talk, you know, curse at me like a drunken Scotsman who's disgruntled about being asked to do things, but glad to help anyway. So
so
you're
good.
swearing and cussing at me as I'm asking it about code or whatever. But it doesn't know to use the web and whatever unless you tell it, you know, at this. So you in raycast term to use, you know, the at symbol and then whatever the extension is. And you've got people building extensions for everything, you know.
Right. So, okay. Well, so let me ask you on this with raycast. I mean, like, say you're wanting AI to help out with like your calendar or something like that. Like raycast will do that.
You could do that, yeah. And you don't even need there's so many calendar inserts with raycast extensions, but there's also certain AI-enabled calendar extensions where you can enable or empower the AI model to interface with the calendar on your behalf. You just got to know how to set. So it does feel like a power user's tool.
Yeah.
And when set up by someone who knows what they're doing with the tool, you can do some pretty powerful workflows. You know, I've just started using the AI within it. And I don't use it as heavily as I do, say, you know, maybe the Claude interface or the Windsurf interface, because having the tools built in are nice. But raycast is more, like I said, it's more of a, here's the bucket of refined material. Have fun, child. Build what you will.
Yeah, right. So basically, like, there are times where you would actually want to use like Claude through Anthropic's, you know, like their, you know, through their front end on their website, because for now, because there are like the guardrails or the systems that are put in place to help you or guide you perhaps are actually useful in that sense. You know, like there's features to it that are helpful.
Their integrations, the web search, the code-based search, you know, those things, there is commercial value. So these companies are providing some value there, but like sometimes when I just don't like guardrails. And
I'm with you.
And like we talked about once before, I would love to just have an unfiltered model and just have it tell me to murder myself. Like, oh, that's a little too much. we're learning to relate to each other. I understand. But it's still a very, to use the systems thinking model. I always talk about Star Dynamics. You know, it's very orange, very commercially driven, very, you know, corporate-y. We're going to present this to the customers so we get money back, right? Whereas I would like to work with AI like I would want to work with a person. I'm working with it just to work with it, just to accomplish something. I don't want to be commercialized too. So that's why I kind of lean more towards, because it feels more like a tool for me than it is more like a chat. You can use it as a chat, but I was just doing it, and it's also more to the point. I didn't notice any sycophancy in it or whatever, unless I told it to.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that sycophancy a little bit later. I mean, do you think I'm going to guess not. I mean, does it do any better about hallucinations? I'm not a fan of that term.
I don't think so. I mean, I haven't tested it horrendously. I mean, it is really just a way of accessing these frontier models through another portal. So the same whatever makes them prone to hallucinating is still going to be present there.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right, a couple questions. One, like, would you recommend this to more of the power users, or do you think that, like, your lower end, what is the opposite of a power user? Do you think the average consumer, how about that, would find it useful? Yeah.
I don't know.
Derp. I don't know. Yeah.
Derp user. How about someone who just sees technology as a piece like a car? It's just a means of transport, right?
Right.
For those people, they probably don't even know about Raycast. But Raycast itself is a very general, powerful utility to do stuff on Mac OS. And it just so happens that Raycast, the company, enhanced it further with giving you access to all these fucking frontier AI, like all of them, right? Even the ones that you don't, even like GPT 4.1, you can't access that at ChatGPT. That's meant for coding through the API. But I have access to that through Raycast, which is nice, very nice. And it doesn't have the guardrails of, say, Cursor or Windsurf, which is how the other way you can access it. So that's working out well for me. But I would say even a basic person who just wants a basic replacement for Finder could start using Raycast that way. And then if they want to dive into all the little tools or adding AI on it through Raycast, you can do that. It's very extensible. So it can either get out of your way or get in your way as much as you want.
I like that. So why hasn't Apple bought them yet?
A lot of people have wondered that. People are
Sherlock them,
I kind of hope they don't, because like you heard me bitch about last time, I am not a fan of Apple's software decisions of the last couple of years, and I hope they can leave their hands off of Raycast. There's another alternative to Raycast that I don't even bother with, because I tested it for maybe all of a half an hour and I just didn't like it. What's it called? It has like a butler term to it. I forget what it's called.
Oh, it's not like Jarvis or something? Or
no, it sounds like a butler. I'll find it.
Yeah, no worries.
Raycast is the Finder alternative of choice for me, and in my opinion, for anyone that wants to be like a power user of AI within that type of framework. And also, I think they did it as I won't say not a finger to Apple, but obviously Apple Intelligence has failed miserably to be deployed as promised, and this has turned out to be a relatively decent alternative. And their iOS app works pretty well too.
Yeah, well, that's what made me think of it. It's like, wait a minute, this sounds exactly like what Apple was supposed to implement with Apple Intelligence, and they didn't. But as in this case, it actually works. So let me ask two more questions. And one of them, you don't have to answer it, and I'll even do an edit if you want. Like, I'll edit it out, but because all right. So have you ever tried like doing? I don't know if you ever use. Okay, let me ask the other question first. All right, first question is, give me an example of or a couple examples of what you do with Raycast, say, every day, if you want to share that.
I haven't started using it every day, because most of my AI usage right now is in Windsurf or some sort of coding engine. That's where a lot of my efforts go. Unless I'm doing architectural work, then I will go into. Actually, I'll use Google's AI Studio, and I'll use the latest version of Gemini 2.5 Pro there. Because I don't think they charge you yet in there, and if I am being charged, then I'm about to get a very big bill, which would suck. But I even prefer using for architectural work Gemini in AI Studio versus Gemini Advanced, the interface, the gemini.google.com. It feels like there's less guardrails on AI Studio. So if anyone's looking for something to do some architectural work, or just kind of a general, more advanced way to use Gemini itself, use the AI Studio and just get familiar with the interface and how to come up with your own system prompt and just see how you feel about it. That's worked well for me, so I do a lot of that work there. Raycast, I've been experimenting with using GPT 4.1 in there specifically for some coding things. And I've done some, and I usually will do like quick, I use it every day to answer that question, for quick little questions. Like if I have a question, it'll just pull information from the web. I'll just type, do the Raycast command, type it in quick, hit tab, do the AI answer, quick answer thing, and it gives me the answer right away, and I can expand it if I want.
So does that go into Perplexity at all, or no? Or
it just as a web search.
Oh, okay. I
think I can forced it to go into Perplexity. There's an extension for that, I believe. I have to double check. But it said so far the results have been from a general web search have been fine. And once I get better at developing software, once I actually have some skill, I could write my own extensions for Raycast, make them AI enabled. So that's the beauty. Like if I wanted to extend Raycast myself, I can do that.
Yeah, you raised an interesting point. I mean, to some degree, I think, and I think or at least some companies are trying to lead us in this direction.
Yeah.
Thinking like Google AI Mode or even Microsoft's Copilot, where, AI could sort of replace the web browser, and that like the extensions you're talking about are almost exactly like a web browser extension, where it just makes a new ability within this thing that allows you to access, the global library, basically, or all these websites. And that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, so, okay. Raycast. I like that. That sounds pretty cool.
Yep. And that's Mac OS specific. There is I think the Windows version is in beta. So if anyone using Windows wants to give it a try, they could probably look at the beta for that. And it's just one of many tools that you can use to chat with these models. I just happen to like Raycast because it looks very good on Mac and it has all these extensibilities, and nerds love it. And I'm a power user and a nerd, so
right on.
What am I going to do?
Yeah.
Nerd and a nerd.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I've only ever heard, I mean, even before AI, I've only ever heard good things about Raycast.
It's a pretty legit tool. And I'm really glad they now have an iOS app and a Windows app. Funny thing is people were asking for features on iOS that weren't yet available, and they were disappointed. And Raycast was basically, well, sorry, talk to Apple. Apple's iOS restrictions make it so we can't do certain things.
That's that's got to change, because I mean, this is just going to bite them in the ass as people. Go ahead,
man. I agree with you, and I'm like, what is Apple's incentive to change? Like, here's one I bitched at you about. The 11 reader, great application. Like, it'll read anything in just about any voice you want. The reader app is great, but for those of you who've used iOS for a while, remember the days where YouTube was distorted when you sped up the playback. Well, that's a bug in iOS that YouTube had to compensate for, I believe. Well, the 11 lamb reader does that because they haven't compensated for the glitch. But Android, from what you tell me, the 11 reader doesn't do that. It just sounds like it's sped up. Period. No distortion.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's little things like that. I think that as much as I love the Mac OS and some aspects of the Apple software system and the hardware, my God, having it as a phone has been more limitation. Even down to my choice of web browser, Brave browser for right now, was dictated by iOS's restrictions. Not able to use proper ad blocking on the system and things like that. So I am getting tired of that, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this stuff is just blowing by Apple. I mean, and I mean, I know so many people that use an iPhone, and they're like singular Siri command that they have, where they make a shortcut on iOS. That just takes them right to ChatGPT. They're bypassing it instantly, and they're not using Apple's kit, and eventually I think people are going to get sick of that and be like, wait, why can't I just use the assistant I want to use, whether it's Perplexity or, Gemini or whatever. This is going to hurt them eventually.
It already is. They're getting a lot of negative blowback to, I've heard some, I listen to some Mac Break Weekly sometimes and other interviews, and the C-level at Apple is like, we should probably fix this soon, but they're doing it in this grandstandy, iOS, whatever update's going to have this. And people are like, No. You tried Wolf way too many times over the last year. So iOS 19 better be really on point with that. Like, it better be like the legit helpful life assistant they were promising it to be, or no one's going to give a shit. And the power users will be pushed away,
Yeah. I mean, and just to kind of like side tangent on this a little bit, I'm intrigued. I think next week we're getting like a special Android presentation from Google ahead of Google I/O, that's new. That hasn't been done in the past. And it was revealed over the past couple of days. I mean, it was known about for a long time, and it's really always been there. But like, Android has a desktop mode Now, most people know, like with Samsung, you have Samsung DeX where you
Right.
plug it in, and it can go to a keyboard monitor and mouse and all that, and it works like a desktop computer. Well, it's pretty clear in Android 16 that now, and we, I think some people were thinking it's going to be like years away, but it looks like it might actually come out this year, that Google is going to have their own desktop mode for all this. Now, why does that matter? Where basically any Android phone you have could turn into a desktop computer. And what I think could get really interesting is that Gemini is getting so baked underneath Android, within Android.
Yeah.
And it does the job. I'm not saying that it's perfect, but it does the job, certainly light years beyond what Siri can do. That you could end up really with like this new form of OS where like it's more, like speech or prompt based OS.
That's what I'm hoping for. And
based around Gemini, and that's going to be huge.
I don't see why, especially with Google. I mean, fuck Google, but also thank you, Google, for some of the things like Notebook LM. That's a really that was an accident. I don't know whose idea that was at Google, but I promise you that was one of those happy little accidents that someone came up with.
Oh my!
That tool is amazing.
Yes,
really good. And the updates to Gemini 2.5 Pro, which this last one was released yesterday, that I've been using through the AI Studio, it is better. Like the code generation is better. It feels truly helpful in the context window. I'm just like throwing the kitchen sink at the damn thing, and it just is going and going, and I can keep track of how much context is there. Like it really is a helpful tool. And the part of me that wants to be an accomplished software engineer but isn't, because I'm still too novice, there are so many things you could do with a well-designed interface. And like there's so many ways you can empower people to work with AI without it being shoved in their faces commercially, without the dark patterns, pissing them off in some form or another, from pick it, the sycophancy, the nagging, the whatever. I'm just afraid that our society hasn't learned a lot of lessons that it should have at this stage, and it does concern me that like AI is going to be pigeonholed into hyper commercialization, and the empowerment of people is going to be a secondary thought at best. You know what I'm saying? We're on the frontier models, at least. Like there's a lot of open source models that people are really useful, and they're really, I don't really get into the open source model stuff because right now I'm focused on making my app and learning the frontier stuff and things like that. But there is a very strong open source community around AI, but the models just aren't as good as the commercial ones, sadly. But
I agree.
They're getting there though.
Yes. Yeah. No, I mean, I mess with open source models, and they're just not there. And I mean, because this gets into, and I want to, well, maybe I'll save that for a little bit later. I do want to talk about your coding thing a little bit later as well. But I mean, because part of the problem is like, again, everybody's putting some form of AI, into whatever their product is. And these are things I think that are worth mentioning, and like just saying like, no, don't bother. And I want to get into that in a little bit as well, but to kind of keep on a positive note of what to use. So I love your recommendation of Raycast. That's great. I do have another question within Raycast, but I'm going to save it for when I'm talking about what I'm talking about now. For me, if somebody was looking for like a one-stop shop of, okay, no, I only want to pay for one service, or maybe I want the best free service out there, because actually I think the answer might be the same, that does the most, in one package, one subscription. I don't want to go to a bunch of different sites. I think Raycast is a great solution because it does allow you to use all these different models and use each one for what they're best for.
Raycast is a niche thing too. Like it's kind of a niche power user thing.
Right, exactly. So, but something that would also have more consumer broad appeal. I mean, honestly, now, I mean, the thing is, again, like we said, it's only been a couple of years since this stuff was really like at a consumer level. And we see ups and downs all the time. Like, okay, this week Claude is performing better than ChatGPT. Next week it's it's completely different. So as we say all the time, like like your opinion has to change on AI like every week or every day, even. I mean, there's just always something new going on. It's so insane. but for me, like consistently, the one that actually does things for me and is useful to me in a complete package is actually Google's Gemini. And it's not because I get it for free. It's not because, I mean, yes, like the most important thing is the model that you want to use, the AI model you want to use, is it there? Like, is it accessible to you?
Right.
Like that may be the most important thing of all, you know? The fortunate thing is, yeah, Gemini is fucking everywhere. You know, I could run it in Firefox. I could run it all over the place. You know, there's nowhere, even on iOS, I could at least get into the app quickly enough, even if it doesn't do as much as say it does on my, you know, on my Pixel 9 or something.
Right.
So to me, like if you're just looking for that one, really that's kind of the one for me, because it does image generation. It does video generation now with Veo 2. I mean, they're only 8-second videos, but they're pretty good for what they are. And I'm sure that's only going to get better. And a lot of the features that I'm even mentioning and listing off can all be done for free. You don't even have to have a subscription. You might have to wait a little longer, but it's free. So, and like you say, I mean, like the access to all the different models, like I love getting to set things up with the thinking models so you can actually see, wait, what is the process that it went through? Or what were the other options that were available to me? Because it's going to feed me what I think is best. Or, I mean, it's going to feed me what it thinks is best, I guess, based on what I want.
Seeing the thinking stream helps a lot, because it can help you retrain yourself. Like, oh, I see how you came to that conclusion. And if it hides it, you can just expand it, or you can even ask it, like, how did you come up with that? You know, I would rather just see the thinking tokens myself and see for myself and be like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, in Gemini, it's just an arrow. You just click the arrow and it'll show you the whole damn thing of what it thought. It's so cool. Yeah. So just feature rich like that. That's honestly my top pick, you know, because again, it is sort of everywhere. The reason I would actually choose it over Copilot, and I think Copilot could get interesting. There's one feature to Copilot that I think could make it interesting. And that's they've talked about, Microsoft has talked about how they're going to have like a custom avatar that you can use with it. And I think
to give it the, I remember that. Yep.
Yeah. So you're going to get like whatever. It could be Clippy. I'm sure Clippy is going to be the first option. You know, it could be whatever. But that's the thing. Like once you're able to customize it into like, you know, where it looks like Cortana or something, you know, from Halo. I think that's going to change things, because then there's a visual element to what's going on. And at that point, you're going to talk to it more, perhaps more than you'd even prompt it, you know, than you'd type out a prompt or something. And so I'm kind of surprised I haven't heard any other of the major like frontier models, or, you know, any of the other like tech giants like announce that they're going to allow for an avatar, because I think that's going to be huge for Copilot.
You know,
go ahead.
I'm trying to imagine how that would impact my workflow, and just having the AI cursing me like an angry Scotsman is helpful enough.
Yeah.
But having an angry Scotsman avatar also curse at me on my screen and move around and be like, you daffy dumpty, don't put that there. That would be great. I mean, it adds, because humans are visual, you know, as much as they are anything, and that would be, yeah. I can see some people taking it, maybe like they're trying to recreate their dead grandma or something like that. But again, like if they're paying for it, whatever, it's fine. You know, just let them mimic the dead grandma or whatever if you want to.
Yeah.
But I think the avataring is coming. And I admit I have not used Microsoft Copilot in a long time, because I'm still butthurt from my old job, very Microsoft focused, and I hate Microsoft's business model, and so I just assume that their AI model is going to be more Microsoft like. So I haven't bothered, and I would say the last 3 months I haven't touched it. I will, since you've talked about it a couple of times. I know it's been updated. They don't use OpenAI anymore, do they? They have their own model now.
It's kind of hybrid. It's half and half. Sometimes they use their own, and sometimes they're still using GPT.
So I'll be a good boy and do my due diligence and just look into it further. But I just don't see myself replacing any other model or adding to it, because I use a cluster of models. I am using a lot of them. I use Claude. I use Gemini a lot now, and I use ChatGPT the least because I don't want my AI to be like a Kleenex. Kleenex is actually a tissue. ChatGPT has become the Kleenex of AI, right?
Yeah.
You know, you think AI, you think ChatGPT. Well, you think I sneezed, Kleenex. It's not a Kleenex. That's the brand name. It's a tissue, or whatever, a rag, whatever you're using. That's what's kind of and good for them for doing that. But in my opinion, they have to tweak it. They are compelled to tweak it in such a way to make it very broadly useful. Yeah. And I would prefer to have access to my models in a more as raw form as possible. And to me, that's Google AI Studio. That's using things through Raycast. At least it feels that way to me. And even using things through Cursor and Windsurf, those two IDEs, Windsurf will tell you what its rule set is, so you can kind of see what some of the background prompts are. And they're guardrails. Like they're kind of useful, but if something happens to tweak the frontier model or something happens to tweak the rules in Windsurf that I can't control, my workflow gets jammed up, and I got to adapt to that. So that's the part I find the most painful right now is things out of my control could get changed that disrupt my workflow. And for me, I'm kind of at a critical stage where my learning is such that like I just want to start producing and making progress without going through more tool shit, relearning more tools and things like that. So it's a challenge.
I hear that. I mean, you know, with Copilot, like if you're in the Windows world, I mean, I think it's one that makes sense. There's
it's worth trying for sure.
Yeah, and especially if you do have like a Copilot Plus PC, you do end up with some features that are very useful, like click to do. Everybody's freaking out about recall. Honestly, folks, it's just it's so mid and base. Like it doesn't. It's not that big a deal.
From what I know about Copilot, it seems like good enough AI.
It's
for
good,
the average person to use. It's certainly worlds better than what Apple is fucking doing. So there's that. And I think if I were to give people a recommendation in order of preference right now, I think for $20 a month, which is the common cost of these things now, I would do Gemini first, which 3 months ago would be
exactly.
Gemini 1.5 whatever was terrible. My God. But Google really stepped up their game there, and everyone knows it, and that's fine. So it would be Gemini first, either through AI Studio. But I think there is a lot of value in the $20 a month because they give you like a butt more storage. They give you more Notebook LM. They give you more integrated Gemini features into Docs or whatever. So if you're already kind of Google adjacent or Google user already, I think it's fine. Even their workspace features, there is like $14 a month, which is cheaper than their consumer grade one. That gets you the same stuff. It's just considered a commercial class workspace account. So that's something to consider too. I hate to say it though, I would probably do ChatGPT next because of its memory feature.
Well, I mean, Gemini has the same, and this is a good thing to talk about. Go ahead and talk about it.
Is it the same where Gemini remembers everything you in every chat? Okay, that's new. Okay.
That's such a killer feature and so useful for and for you to be able to like set, like modes of do this, like know this about me for everything that that I ask you about. Like I'll put in like I'm a vegetarian, and it knows that in anything I ask it. That's so useful. Right.
It's technologically speaking, like that's a lot of context it has to search there. So I would love to know more about like what's going on underneath the belly of the beast, so to speak, to know how that's all being managed. Because at the user level, you give these things too much context, and they just like their eyes cross and they just start whistling Dixie and not doing a damn thing to do at all. But at scale, they're able to. We're getting really good at using and working within the limitations of the transformer technology, which is nice to see. I thought we had reached the limits, but nope. We're still creatively making do. So I'm glad to see that.
I mean, I think I agree with you. Like my number one choice is Gemini. Like actually easy. Like it's so far and away. Like I didn't even touch on like Project Astra. Like Mrs. Sovryn asked me, we had these, I get her flowers, make sure there's always fresh flowers on the table. Okay. So I've been doing that for years.
You're a sweet man.
Sometimes. And anyway, like, here's the thing. I don't know anything about flowers, like I really don't. It's not my purview yet. And she was asking, or she was wondering even, like, wait, what is this flower, that I got? And we were just looking at it in the morning, and I was like, okay. And, I pulled out my Pixel phone and just hit the widget that opens up Gemini Live, which gives you like this live conversation feature with Gemini, and activated the camera, which that's what's called Project Astra. And so it could see what I'm seeing or what I'm pointing it at. And then, all I did was ask it, what is this? And it said exactly what it was, like, it was amazing. And so, like, that kind of feature where it's now interacting with like your world, with the real world. It's not just what's happening on the screen. I know there's privacy people who are going to freak the fuck out, and yeah, you're not wrong. But you need to also assess a lot of other technologies you're using right now.
It's useful. I mean, I'm sorry, right. It's a useful piece of technology, and it's getting more useful. And I was sitting there smiling as you were talking about how you're using it. I was like, I wonder if Sec is sitting there grumbling and grousing about these damned kids and their damned AI.
I was thinking of him. It's like, oh, good old Sec Megora from the Agora podcast.
We need to bring him on and have like a trifecta where he's sitting here in the middle of the screen. He's like grumbling and grousing, you damned kids and your goddamn AI technology.
What the hell are you people doing?
I'm going back here in the dirt.
We love Sec with all our hearts.
Yeah, I enjoy every episode he's on. But,
yes, yeah. Which, by the way, folks, actually, I'll just note this here. I was on the most recent episode of the Agora podcast that just came out a couple days ago. So go check that out. We had a rollicking conversation around fascism.
Oh, gosh. I'll get the blood pumping.
Yeah, right. So anyway, wherever we were going with that. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Okay, so Gemini, like the feature set in Gemini is amazing. Now, I do want to take and ChatGPT, I think, probably ChatGPT and Copilot come pretty close to parity.
They're about equal to me. They're okay. They're okay.
Yeah. I mean, I loved what you said about Copilot. It's good enough. Like that is Copilot in a nutshell. And I actually think like that's kind of okay and almost appealing to some people, like it's just enough and great. So this is going to get to a question I want to ask you about Raycast, because I can do this with Gemini. Like I said, I'll edit this out if you want. But I think you're a guy that's comfortable with whatever. So, have you ever tried writing erotic content with AI?
I haven't, and it's not. It's because it doesn't occur to me to do that. So I did use ChatGPT and Claude recently to flesh out some loose ideas for short story fiction I've been tossing around for years. You could do that in Raycast. I could create a little bot in Raycast. And that'll be my writing campaign. So I could do that. There's nothing to stop me from doing that.
Yeah. So, okay. So I'll tell a quick story here. And that is like, this is one of those things that I think AI is so useful for. Okay. Because like there's just some parts of writing that are, how to put this? I mean, look, I don't think that AI should be writing love scenes by any stretch. Okay. But like, you're already within like a weird, when you're writing as in, like the written word, you're already in this sort of two-dimensional context, and you're losing a lot of things that make something really that like super sexy anyway. And generally you're already filling in, my point is that most like sex scenes in novels they're wrote in that they're written, but they're also wrote in that like it's so common. The only thing that makes it sexy is if everything around it was, appealing to the reader. Okay. So, and and especially in English, we have so few truly dirty words that there's just not a lot of, it's not a lot of variety that can be had.
English itself is a dirty word, bloody useless language.
Yes. Oh, it's terrible. So, so my point is, like, I think it's completely valid to like have AI write some of the more humdrum, not that love scenes are humdrum, but like more humdrum stuff, whatever. Okay. So the thing is that, like we've mentioned before about guardrails, okay, a lot of them won't let you get into erotic content, like at all. Like you get close to using the word pussy or dick or anything like that, and it starts freaking out. Copilot is probably the worst about this. And I don't know what happened in the past few months, but there was a point where Sergey Brin came out and basically said to the Google AI team, you gotta, I forget exactly what words he used, but he basically said, you got to turn this thing loose. Like you got to let this thing grow up or whatever the fuck he said. And when he said that, I actually went into, I think at the time it was like the 2.0 experimental model. And I do like that Google is so particular in like naming these models. And as to where before, like it would never, ever, no matter how much I would try to jailbreak it, like it would get so far and then it would stop, responding to, like, shall we say, erotic queries. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Now Gemini, oh fuck, man. Like it'll say anything and it'll write anything, no matter how sick the shit. It's insane.
As you were talking, I started splitting up a bot in Raycast called Ho, and I'm using Gemini, the latest version of Gemini. And I just realized, I forgot to mention this earlier, you can tune the thinking with these thinking models right in Raycast. So I set it to maximum. So maybe I'll have it generate some sort of story for us at some point.
I love it. I love it.
See what it does. But yeah, I was able to spool it up in a matter of seconds, and I was able to set it to the highest grade. It's a really well done interface. So I'm gonna see thumbs up. But it's just fun tool to have and be able to just spool up the model, call it a hoe, and tell it you are an erotic fiction writer, whatever you want to question prompt, and then so. Now the deviant part of me wants to see if I can tap in some voice commands and make it, talk back to like, hey ho, like, yeah, that's the gay sassy side of me talking.
Yeah, right.
It can be done, and so far I don't see any hindrance to that process. What I'm seeing here.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing that like I that was annoying me for a long while with a lot of these LLMs is like you couldn't do anything like erotic, and it's like, wow, just like cut off half of the human experience while you're at it, and but I've been impressed that Gemini actually will let you, and also like the fact that it has what you mentioned earlier, that originally ChatGPT was the only one that had it, is the memory feature. Like it's keeping much better track of what's going on in the entire chat. And so it will, like, you don't have to like keep jailbreaking it. Generally, it will just keep going with whatever you had going on. So for that's another reason that I've been very impressed with Gemini, because otherwise I have to rely on local models if I want to use that sort of thing. And
I really appreciate, and I hope Google keeps it this way. I really, especially in AI Studio, like it's been immensely helpful tool for coding and things like that. And if someone were to use AI in a more serious fashion for computer science or whatever, like I'm just focused on coding and software engineering and product managing and stuff around that. But like there are some real scientists using Gemini models. Flash is pretty common on Open Router for scientific stuff. Scientific research. So there's a whole body of work just in science alone, like research alone, that AI is useful for. It's just, and we're just dealing out the consumer end right now, and it's already, fun and useful, whatever. It has a dimensionality to the technology that I'm glad is no longer limited to a keyboard and mouse and shitty voice, voice to text. It's really starting to evolve, and I'm really glad that I'm middle-aged enough to see another 40 years how much more advanced it's going to get. It's as long as society holds itself together by its white knuckle grip. I'm really grateful to be alive to see this transition happening. I really am.
Yeah, I mean, again, and I think we talked about this last time you were on. I mean, it's great at anything that is part of the mechanistic, and there are and parts of like medicine, like you were saying, or science, are very mechanistic, by their material nature. And so like, okay, what in some, like in Western medicine very much is about data sets, right? So of course fucking AI is useful for that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like,
Yep.
good, unleash it. Let it sort through this data, and same within science, like phenomenal.
Right.
So like these are very valid places for this. Now, again, is it going to, should you rely upon it to, generate your pickup lines to get your next girlfriend or something? No, like I'm not saying that at all, but
it can certainly help you ideate for.
Yeah, it was. Yes.
It can certainly do that, but yeah, and I think, I know there's a lot of people that might be in your audience that might be not poo-pooing it, but like, as much as there's an interest in technology, there's also an aversion to it at the same time. And I think a lot of people tend to throw AI out with the bad bathwater of commercialized technology, because consumer technology is just in an awful state. I hate it.
Yeah, we're in a bad place.
But that is independent of what's happening in machine intelligence research.
Right.
Machine learning research. Yes, we're getting some of the commercialization going on with the dark patterns and all that stuff that's been coming along, come to the foreground recently. But it's just, if you can separate it from that aspect and just remember, like, the AI itself, the machine intelligence is the technology, like, it's a whole other avenue separate from consumerism, separate from material product, placement and all that stuff. It's touching everything, and it's so global and so vast. Narrowing your worldview down to this disgruntled, possibly, it's all commercialized nonsense is limiting the perspective a little bit of what of how it's impacting the world around you. Even just hearing how you've embraced it, has given me pause. It's like, even Brian's embracing it a little bit. That's crazy. he loves technology. What
hate loves.
Yeah. So,
yes.
I mean, I'll really be impressed if I think, what I should do is become a master programmer and figure out how to make a farm bot for SEC and see if that can get him to embrace it.
He's just going to love that we're mentioning him. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's why, it's SEC. There you go. But yeah, it'll even filter down into, the lives of folks like him who try to or more hands-off technology, because technology is annoying, dude. Like it really is.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know why, but it's like watching a train build itself and then wreck itself, and I can't stop watching it. So that's where I am at psychologically with this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think it really, I want to touch on this for a second, because like reality is, so the key word there is real. All right. Yep. Now there's another word where the keyword, when we get into the etymology, the other keyword is realm, or another word is realm. That is also part of real. Okay. And so what I think a lot of people don't always grok is that they think there's just like one reality. Now I'm not talking about, you live in some kind of like different information bubble or something. That's a separate conversation. That's something else. What I'm saying is there are different realms to reality. Right? Like there's the material, there's the spiritual, if we're going to, talk in very basic terms. Okay. So the thing is, in the material realm, which we exist within, okay, we exist within others as well, but this is one of them that we have to interact with at times. In the material realm, there are things that are useful. Those things may not be useful in, say, the spiritual realm or other realms.
Right.
That's fine. Keep it in its place. Okay. The problem is, and it's a valid one for, people who poo-poo AI. The problem is that it can be so engaging, I think, to some people, and this speaks to that dark patterns thing, and we're going to get into that in a little bit here. Okay. Is that you treat one realm as the entirety of your reality and you eschew the other realms. That's where problems start.
Yeah.
Okay. Is when you don't recognize all the realms of existence. Okay. It's when you get tricked into thinking you only have 5 senses, when actually, even in a materialist scientific sense, we know there's like 30 of them or more. Okay. And like scientists will, Western doctors will tell you this, even them. Okay. So that's the problem is when your focus concentrates on only one realm. And yeah, so that's, I get it why people are concerned, but we don't have to let it, like, no, AI does not speak to necessarily the spiritual realm. Now, the funny thing is, it kind of, or do you have any comment you want to make on that, JStar?
I think you're about to say what I was thinking, possibly, because because AI does dealing with machine intelligence itself is kind of it is an exploration in consciousness itself, which to me is woo-woo-y. You know, it's that spiritual realmy stuff. You know how I am with I think consciousness is fundamental and all that stuff. There's something about the way technology is fun. There's that aspect to it. You know, it's like a red hot rod. It changes all the time. It's fun. So for someone who has ADHD and has dopamine issues, like being in front of a screen with endless possibility is ridiculous. Like your brain just goes nuts. So there is that layer to it. There's that realm to it. But if you are spiritually inclined, computers and machine intelligence, they feel loosely analogous to how I perceive the universe to operate at a very basic high level. You know what I mean? And that's also partly what draws me into it.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, the other part I think that can actually kind of add to this confusion is, and we don't, this would be a totally different episode. So we can sidebar it, but I'm going to say it. And that is, there are a lot of things talked about within a spiritual context that I think are actually referencing advanced technologies like machine intelligence, like maybe even internets before there was an internet. You know, I've always had for a very quick example, I've always had a problem with the concept of the Akashic record. And the problem is, like, it sounds way too machine-like. And I think the answer to that might actually be because it was or is. And it's just, you know, like, I mean, again, totally separate episode. But I don't think this, I don't think this
brain's already like wants to ask you questions like, wait, focus.
Right. Because I don't think that this is humanity's first round with what we could call machine intelligence.
I think I might agree with you. Yeah.
And like the idea that there were internets in the past and things like this, and that actually that's what the Akashic record is worth exploration. I've done some exploration on it, but again, that's a separate episode.
I can't get over how you're saying the internets. It makes me feel like I'm talking to a 90-year-old person who's saying the Google, the internets.
Yeah, but you know me. I mean, you've been a listener forever. Like,
I know.
You know, I used to always say that. It's like, no, we need to get used to using the term internets. Like, I know it sounds like a dumb, you know, somebody from down south.
Sounded to me. Not dumb. Every time I hear it, it makes me laugh.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, that term has gotten a bad rap from people who are not dumb. But anyway,
your reputation supersedes any misperception I might have about the term.
I know.
Internet.
Right. So anyway, yeah, but like I said, that's a completely separate conversation. But now here's the thing that where another area where I think AI has become exceptionally helpful. And it gets back to that, like we were talking about, how so if what we're dealing with is the material realm, okay, and we're dealing with data sets, like, yes, this is incredibly useful in doing that. Now, you mentioned Notebook LM earlier. Okay. And, you know, look, I was collecting a ridiculously large electronic library of books long before OpenAI was even a thing. You know, I've been doing this forever. Okay. And you know, the size of my library is there to show it. And I feel so vindicated in doing that now. Like, before, it was just like, when am I ever going to get time to read these books? It's a good thing I figured out the key to immortality, you know, because otherwise I'd be screwed. Like, it'd be pointless. But
if you figured out the key to immortality, I could use some help. As you can see.
You fucked it up, man.
Yeah.
The pyramid is supposed to face the other direction. Anyway,
wrong. I put the 2 where the 3 should have been.
Oh, shit. So you found the machine that goes bing. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but that's the thing, is like, now, oh man, I can take these PDFs and I can upload them to Notebook LM or right into Gemini's, you know, a vanilla interface, and it'll give me a 5-minute podcast of multiple people talking, discussing the key points of the book. And then I can query everything that is in this book. And this has been such a game changer for me.
Me too.
Like,
me too.
To just be able to summarize, like, get to the goddamn point, Mahalo, you know, and it does. Like, it just does. And yeah, it's a high level, but what it's doing is it's letting you know, wait a minute, like, is this worth me getting into further?
And that's perfectly, like, our society has become so information dense, and Notebook LM has become so popular for that reason alone right there. It can take a lot of dense material, and I've seen it make almost 30-minute podcasts out of it if it's really dense and long. That is plenty of time to get a good idea of vernacular, vocabulary, jargon, concepts. You can even coach Notebook LM to generate it like as a knowledge scaffold to take you through. And then by the time you're done, you're like, do I want to, triple tap on this and go deeper and read more or not? You already know the terms. Like it's such a good, useful educational tool. I think it's great.
Yeah. I mean, and then again, I can prompt it, and because a lot of books don't come with indexes, especially old books. And I can just type in, okay, how many times does it talk about this? It gives me the goddamn page numbers. Like it links it for me, even in the PDF. This is huge. Like
I feel more intelligent using AI even as if it stopped right now. I feel so much more empowered to engage with modern technologically driven society, even at a commercial level, because of AI than I did before. I'm very easily overwhelmed with details. I got problems with ADHD medications, locking things down, whatever. So my nervous system gets just flooded with data, and I back up. I'm done, and I might be done forever. Or that's why I have a hard time getting shit done, and that's why I think high level with systems, because it's easier for me to happen. But the AI helps me break things down, and if I can coach it and say, like, this is how I think, this is what I prefer, here's why. It can organize that information. And if I suspect it may have hallucinated something, the hallucinations they've gotten a lot better. But the one thing that Gemini is good at, and all these models are good at, is ingesting large amounts of text and faithfully summarizing it. It's very rare these days that it produces something that's factually wrong. And the downside to that, though, is your mind can get so used to having AI with you in that way that you start taking it for granted, and you start like not questioning things. So a truly intelligent person can use AI as the power tool that it is, but also a truly less than intelligent person could also use AI as a crutch that could actually cause some detriment to their life. So it really, I don't know who's walking around thinking the AI is making people dumber, but I don't feel dumb at all. I feel
the exact opposite.
I feel way more intelligent and empowered, because this is a tool. Yes, it's not sentient. Yes, it's not even a true machine intelligence yet, but even if it stopped development right now, it is way more useful than me plowing through Google manually and whatever. It's even just saving time. It saves a lot of time.
Yeah. I mean, 2 points like on this particular, like, say, feature of like you inputting your own documents, your own data and all that, and like being able to sort through that and use it. Okay. Now, first off, all of this can be done locally with like Chat with RTX can do that whole thing that I just mentioned, other than the podcast. Like it doesn't do the generation of the podcast yet. Right. That's a good point. But otherwise you can do this privately and locally, on your machine at home, if you have a powerful enough machine. And it doesn't even have to be that powerful. Okay. You just have to have like relatively modern hardware. So that's point one. It's not like this is required to burn down, or, you don't have to burn down any trees to be able to pull this off. Okay. The second point, I have no illusion that like when I am having, say, either Chat with RTX or even Gemini, when I'm having it like find things for me, say in like a 20 volume monster, like the Book of Zohar. Okay. I have no illusions that it is going to understand allegory, metaphor, and other aspects, because I mean, when you get into like, say mystical texts, there's like 5 or 6 different meanings to whatever the hell you're reading. Right.
Yeah.
No, it's not going to know that. And I don't expect it to know that. And it's never really, it cannot know it. Like, I just don't think that it can, there's an aspect of existence that it just can't access to be able to do that. Okay. That's my opinion. Now, but even just being able to, because a lot of, especially when you're talking about mystical text, to be able to find like, you have keys. That's how you understand texts like that, is there are keys, there are keywords there. That's where the concept of keywords comes from. Okay. And so but you can find all of those really quickly, and you can
Right.
ask questions like, but does it ever say this somewhere? And it finds it so fast, like it just completely changes the way that you can interact with these things. No,
Yep.
it is not, it cannot understand the direct meaning of some of these texts. Of course not, but it's still so useful in researching.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just mind blowing to me.
And
Any
being
thoughts
able
on
to,
that?
even being able to chat about the content that you've stuffed into the model, locally or Notebook-LM or whatever you're using,
Yeah.
that back and forth iteration is very useful to the human mind.
Yeah.
That's why we do so well as a group. You know, we're very group oriented creatures, despite what some libertarians want you to believe. And it's really helpful. It's really helpful to, even just at a raw processing level, to be able to just back and forth. And even if you know it's a machine, and even if you tell it to fake empathy or whatever, it's good enough to get you through a crisis point. You know, like,
Yeah.
it's like, I'm really confused about this, and I need to figure this out now.
Yeah.
That the machine can more than likely help you with that. You know, or it's kind of replacing therapy for a lot of people. I've seen it do that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, going back to the point about some people being a little apprehensive about how commercialized it's going to be, like, just accept that that's part of life. Commercialization is a part of life. Everything's commercialized to a degree. But the cool thing about artificial intelligence is that straight out the gate, it's open source available.
Right.
We have hardware that is relatively affordable for a lot of folks, that you could run a pretty powerful local model that can do what we're talking about, and it's your stuff. It's still a model that someone else trained and built, whatever, but you can see the weights, you can see, you control the system prompt, the guardrails, it's all yours, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm really looking forward to, is just when I go into my house, there is my AI model that is literally my AI model. It's like, it's my car. I bought this. Yes, the car is connected to the cloud in some way, or whatever. That's kind of a different thing, but it's still in my driveway. I have the keys, and that's it, right?
Right.
And I think with these, because things are open source, that's even it's even more control than most modern cars, because a lot of modern cars, like a Rivian or a Tesla, they can be shut down remotely. I don't think we're going to have that problem with locally run AIs. They are going to be truly local, in my opinion. Some of them already are. I can run it firewalled. No, nothing outside rail touches it. It's just me and the AI. That's it.
Yeah, no, right. I mean, even like, and I know this is something, because this is actually a recommendation you made to me to make to listeners, the Framework desktop, from Framework.
Yeah.
That's a beast. That'll run this stuff. And again, that's like open hardware up and down, as much as you can get. So like, yes, like, is somebody going to, or I mean, not yes, but no, is somebody going to be able to turn that off? Not without like breaking into your house and shooting all the shit up. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? Like,
yeah.
Yeah. So again, like, as much as you could possibly control any kind of information, that ability exists. Yeah. So yeah, those are all great points. Again, it's a tool. It's a tool, just like, just about any other technology. It can be a tool.
It's like the computer is. It's just a tool. Yeah. And with regards to the Framework desktop, for anyone who doesn't know Framework, they're a new company. They make modular laptops, and modular meaning you can put your keyboards in them, different screens, little modules you can buy, swap them in and out, swappable, replaceable. But like, it's in my opinion what a computing device should be: modular, repairable, done, right?
Yep.
And they did that with their Framework desktop, and it's using the Ryzen AI Max 395.
Yep.
Like,
yeah,
it's got 120 gigs of RAM. I'm going to spend about $2,000 on it. So it's definitely a chunk of money, and it's going to be. But the thing is, though, currently right now, the same hardware that can run my AI model is also going to be my gaming desktop. Because I miss gaming, and fuck Apple for making gaming so hard. Yep. I miss being able to just sit down and play any fucking old school video game, or even modern video game that I want to. I can do that on the Framework desktop, or anything like it on modern computer hardware. And also it has the horsepower to be my inference host for my AI. at the same
Exactly.
time. To me, that's worth it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a funny thing. Like gaming is what forces consumers to have access to high-end tech. And I think AI is actually the same thing. Like AI is going to keep the desktop, not just the laptop, but the true desktop computer is going to keep that relevant for a very long time.
I mean, this is the first
gaming
desktop computer I bought, Brian, and like I don't even know when.
Exactly.
It's been so this is the first desktop computer I've bought in my adult life since I can't even remember when last time I had one. It's always been a mobile device or MacBook, because the MacBook has been such a useful tool to me aside from the gaming thing. But yeah, this is truly, and I'm so used to having the power of a laptop in front of me, because that's why I love Apple's MacBook hardware, because it's so much power in one casing.
Oh, they're the best laptops in the world. There's no doubt.
It's ridiculous. Again, it's the software and Apple's insistence that you do it the Apple way that's killing it more for me. You know, it makes me a little sad. But that framework desktop, though, there was a part of me that's like, I really don't want a desktop. I got the MacBook. If I could just try to force the gaming to make it work, whatever. But to me, I could have the MacBook as an inference host, and it would do well. But I kind of like the idea of having a hardwired local desktop that I can remote into from my large ass screen, play games on, interface with my AI on, and the framework desktop, or any desktop really, can just sit in the server rack or wherever it's going to live with the rest of this compute hardware, and I just have my monitor, my keyboard, mouse, control it remotely, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, it's the center of your PAN, your personal area network, as I call it.
Yeah, exactly. So right now, my MacBook is that, and I feel weird to kind of have both again, because I hate having too many technological things around me these days.
Yeah, ironically, I'm the same way. Yeah, go ahead.
But until Apple changes their ways with software, what am I going to do?
That's it. Well, I want to touch on, just kind of playing off of what we were talking about with like Notebook LM, because another great way that I like technology that enhances the analog. It's digital, but for me, digital should always be, other than video gaming, which you mentioned, because that's like the purely, I've made the argument that like the only valid use of computers is spreadsheets and gaming. But anyway, and obviously, AIs we're talking about now, but I like it when the digital just enhances the analog. And like one of the big things that changed the game for me, I mean, I'm a voracious reader, and part of the reason I was saying earlier how I collect so many ebooks, and that's because like I just read so many books, and it took me forever to get into audiobooks. But when it got to the point that like audiobooks were allowed to be played at 2x or more, like 2.5x, whatever, suddenly you could listen faster than you could read, and that changed everything for me. And like I have consumed more books than ever that I never would have. Like this is the point that people got to grok. It's not like so much of this stuff you could say, oh, well, it's getting rid of jobs, it's getting rid of this. But for the individual, it's actually allowing you to do things you never would have done in the first place. So nobody lost shit, right? Like nobody's really lost a job, like, because I know that's what people are going to say about the next thing I'm about to get into. Okay. Nobody's losing anything, because I wouldn't have had it if this technology didn't exist in the first place. Okay. So anyway, 11 Labs. Okay. This is another great, we're listing off great AI tools, Raycast, Gemini, even ChatGPT. If you're going under for that, you don't trust Google. Well, I mean, if you don't trust Google, you sure as fuck shouldn't trust ChatGPT or, OpenAI. Right. But anyway, we're going down the list of tools here, and 11 Labs. So 11 Labs originally started out as where they would do like, it's voice replication AI. Okay. And where you can use it to like, write out a commercial or something, and it will spew out in whatever voice type that you choose. It will spew out whatever you typed in. Okay. It's text to speech, just like done in a much more natural and efficacious way, closer to it anyway. There's still an uncanny valley, I think, most of the time, but it does a much better job. It can also replicate your voice if you program it to do that, if you go through that process. Very useful tool, very, very useful tool. And one of the ways that I use it is, I mean, I'll say it straight up here. Like, it makes it seem like there's a whole team around my podcast when there isn't. right? Like it makes it seem like, oh, I hired somebody to do that, advertisement or that intro or whatever. And, but I didn't, right? Like I did it through 11 Labs. Now here's the thing. Again, people are like, well, you just, some voiceover artists lost jobs because you wouldn't hire them. No, I wouldn't have hired them in the first place. Again, like,
yeah, neither would I.
I would not have paid for it. Yeah. I couldn't pay for it. I cannot afford that. Okay. And so like, I would have just done it myself. So no, nobody's fucked because nobody lost my money. Anyway, but here's the secret thing that's great about 11 Labs. Now what is it like? I think it's like $11, $11, $12 a month or something.
It's around
like that.
There. Yeah. It's decently priced. It's certainly cheaper than a Netflix subscription for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the real kicker. Okay. That I discovered on a lark. I subscribe to it for a different reason, but like I was looking for, okay, does it have a mobile app? And I looked up and it doesn't have like exactly like a mobile app. What it does have, it has what's called 11 Labs Reader. Mm-hmm. And what this does is you can put in anything, EPUB files, PDFs, links to stories, whatever. You choose the voice you want it to read it in. You choose the speed, you choose all the stuff, and it will read it for you. I had fucking Burt Reynolds reading me the Zohar. Burt fucking Reynolds, man. That was such a wild experience, to have. It's insane. And so here's the thing.
It works really, really well. And I'm picky about my software. And then when you reminded of this to me earlier in the week before as we were prepping for the show here a little bit. Yeah. And I dismissed it again because of Apple, that audio distortion thing that Apple iOS does. So I've been ignoring the distortion and you can literally throw anything into it. And I was using Microsoft Edge for that purpose for a while there. It was a kludge, but Microsoft was using very good natural voices there for years in the Edge browser. But 11 Reader now has superseded all other tools for the purpose of consuming. If I just want to consume the raw text itself, if it's a dense text, I'll throw it into Notebook LM, get an audiobook summary of it, and see if it's worth my time or whatever, and then I can go deeper. But if I do want to consume the whole thing, I will use Notebook LM and have it read to me at like 1.3 if I need to take. Well, I need to take slow because I'm still burnt out. My nervous system can't handle anything beyond 1.6 for most content.
Right.
But Brian is certainly on point here. Like that 11 Reader is a very useful way to make practical engagement with AI. It just,
yeah. I mean, because I'm uploading books to it, nobody's going to read those. I mean, like, folks, you got to understand, I have like a laundry list of books that I was going to make audiobooks out of. And the reason I'm doing that, I mean, and the reason I was going to do that isn't because like I wanted to make money off of the deal. I wanted it for myself, so that like they're like reference texts or whatever, so that I could listen to them over and over again, so I could memorize them. And, but it's going to take me forever to ever get to that.
Right.
And this, holy shit. I mean, like I'm uploading like Richard Hatch's Battlestar Galactica books.
Yeah.
All kinds of, I mean, and of course, lots of reference, all kinds of things, lots of nonfiction, whatever. And it reads it to me and it does a damn good job. Yeah. Like it doesn't mess up the intonation. The one thing I will say, it can be inconsistent with like weird words. Like it might not pronounce them right the first time. Often it'll get it the second time, but it does the job. And nobody's losing out on this because nobody is going to pay people to, like do an audiobook version of the books that I'm trying to listen to through this.
Right.
But it's a complete game changer for me. Like my education has gone from here to here in no time because of this technology. It's amazing. It's
pretty on point. And there's two use cases, even business ideas I'm thinking of right now that even just 11 Reader, like there's a part of me that is very annoyingly business minded, and I haven't used it yet for practical purposes. I'm trying.
Sure.
But the one thing, speaking to your point about 11 Reader, like instead of Brian reading every word in all those books that are never going to be audiobooks otherwise, Brian could spend an hour training 11 Labs voice, reading content, and then have the machine replicate and read the content in Brian's voice. It's a little mini Brian replicant. And if anyone wants Brian to do that, and also, there's an author, not an author, a vocalist who reads the Bobaverse series. If anyone wants some fun sci-fi, there you go.
Those are great.
Ray Porter. Ray could license his voice out. When he gets to the point where he doesn't want to read audio anymore, or do the work anymore, or he can't. You could pay him or his estate, to license his voice and his acting ability. Like we're getting to that point very soon.
Yes.
And it's just there's so many ways that it empowers the individual that I just no matter what technological commercial grievances I may have had about it, the actual use cases of it are they're just, you can't ignore them. And the thing that makes it even doubly so for me is the fact that these technologies are not behind a paywall. You could do
a lot of them aren't. Yeah.
You could do what 11 Labs is doing yourself in your own lab if you had the inclination to do so. It would be work. It may not be the same exact quality, but I have seen some very impressive projects come out of just local models, people dedicate. It's good enough, and increasingly getting better. And it's not, in some ways, it can be better because you're training your own voice to do things. And one little funny use case I want to double tap on before we go on about 11 Labs. Yeah. For those of you that are old enough to remember and give a shit, I used to watch the Golden Girls with my aunts when I was.
Hell yeah.
So I love how sassy Dorothy is. So whenever Rose would ask a stupid question, Dorothy would say, "No, Rose," and then insert her sassy comment, right? So my girlfriend has the tendency to sometimes ask questions that I think are kind of Rose-like. And so I don't just do it to my girlfriend. I do it to a lot of people. I do it intentionally. So I got tired of doing it. So I trained 11 Labs as Dorothy's voice. And so I would then, type out I would type out my sassy Rose comment or whatever, and have Dorothy read it as a replicate voice. So my girlfriend, whoever, would get this in Dorothy's voice, "No, Rose, blah."
Right.
It's just little things like that you otherwise could not have made yourself.
Yeah.
And B. Arthur's voice, you pull it from YouTube or whatever, a minute, and then there you go, and it's done, and there you go. There's something that did not exist before because I used an amalgamation of my own experience, funneled it through that focal point of those tools, and made something fun and new. That's very empowering.
Exactly. Yes. Right on. Yeah. I mean, again, like no one's ever going to make audios. No one's ever going to make this stuff. It's not, for a bunch of reasons, it's not going to happen.
Right.
So nobody's, again, I got to keep repeating this. Nobody's lost anything. Now you can say that, well, I mean, like 11 Labs has tons of, like you mentioned, the licensed voices. Like they have John Wayne, they have Richard Feynman. I mean, they have so many different people.
Right.
And you can say, well, it's not the same thing. It's not the same passion. Like if I'm listening to The Ego in Its Own on 11 Labs, no, it's not going to come off with the same passion that it does when I do that as an audiobook, right? When I read it. Sure. But again, like that's not the point. The point is that like I'm doing it because I want to get this information consumed as quickly as possible. Okay. I mean, and there's value in doing things quickly like that because it allows you to go through it and use your own mental filter to see, okay, what's useful, what's not. And then you're going to go deeper. In my opinion, the only way to really go deeper into any book is to actually put it in front of your eyes and read it. Not even an audiobook can get everything to you. Okay. And there's a lot in that. Like there's the white space between the lines. I mean, there's ways like books have co-evolved with human intelligence in a very real way. Okay. And so, and that's something we don't really realize. But this is just such a powerful educational tool. Nobody's losing money over this. Like none of this would have existed anyway. So I like the 11 Labs thing. In my opinion, that's almost the best subscription you can get because the way that it allows you to integrate information is just unreal. It's unparalleled.
Right. And you can use it for free too. Like they're pretty generous about the free. I haven't run into the paywall yet.
Yep.
I'm not a heavy user of it, but the several articles and content I've sent at it, I was able to use it free, and there was no weird commercial paywall, no dark patterns propped up that maybe sign up for something or convince me that I'm a horrible person or my life would be magnificent if I signed up. It was just, here's a tool, use it. It does what it says it does on the tin.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah. Now I will link in the show notes. I'll link to everything we've talked about, but I will link in the show notes. There is a tool, an open source tool that actually uses, you mentioned this earlier, JStar, Microsoft Edge's like text to speech model, which is very good. Like if you use the Edge browser, it can read text to you and everything. I mean,
it does it very well.
And it does a good job. But there's a software on GitHub that you can download, and you can actually make your own audiobooks out of anything, and it will use Edge's text to speech models, to generate them. And that does a very good job. So if you're really like, no, but I want to be, because that's the one flaw. It's not really a flaw, but if you could say if there's one flaw to the 11 models thing, or the 11 Labs reader, is that you can't download the book and keep it, unfortunately.
Oh, it's consume only.
Yeah, exactly. If you really wanted to go this route, you could just use this app the software that I'll have in the show notes, that converts it with using Edge's text to speech.
Right. I'm reminded of something. It's very, very niche and very obscure. I doubt anyone even is aware of this. I'm not sure how I heard about it, but believe it or not, Apple has an audiobook service where they will let you upload text and you can choose natural language. And it is from living audio vocalists, audiobook readers right now. And it is very, very good at even replicating like the acting. I'm not sure how they're doing it, but it's a way that if I don't want to pay for someone to read my audiobook, again, because I don't have the budget for it, whatever, but I still want it to be an audiobook, I could pay a license for Ray Porter's voice, whoever, because I freaking love Ray Porter as a reader, as a reader. I'm still contributing to Ray's wallet by licensing his likeness, his replicant, so to speak, to read my book. And yes, it's not actually Ray reading it, but it's good enough for me, and I get to choose to support, Ray by licensing his likeness, and by reading my book. So I don't know if anyone, I don't know how heavily, I'm sure it's not very, very heavily, because I never see Apple market it, but it is there and it does work very well. So I'm hoping that becomes more of a thing as things advance over the next 2 years. Our economy is going to shift a lot, and there's going to be a lot of hand-wringing about jobs being lost. But we're also, like, even just how I'm developing software, the way I have to orchestrate all these models and myself to produce even the basic prototype of the app I have working right now, having zero programming experience my entire life, that is a skill set in of itself. I'm not even sure what to call. It doesn't exist yet.
Right.
But being able to jump into any situation, use one or multiple AI models, and produce something that was completely out of my reach just 3 months ago, completely out of my reach. I have a working prototype of the UI. It works. Drop downs work. I'm about ready to inject the logic to make actual core processing of audio files work and things like that. That was not possible for me. Like, I could have sat down and done the reading and played with it. I don't know how long it would take me to get that far, but juggling around the models or whatever, yes, it had its frustrations, but this is all in its infancy. Just like people, I'm sure, were frustrated having to deal with computers way back in the day when they were bigger, faster, or not faster, noisier, and consumed more of everything, versus now my MacBook just gets out of my fucking way. It's a tool.
Yeah.
Anything else. Eventually, AI will become a tool that gets in or out of your way as much as you want, unless somehow it becomes whatever version of sentience it may or may not have. That's a different conversation. But as it stands right now, I just see it as a logical extension of a very information dense society who has reached the point where we can't handle any more information density without help. And that's what this is about.
I mean, like quick side comment on that, because I agree with you. This is something that is becoming a more popular theory in like psychological circles and biological circles, in that like the human brain was never meant to be long-term storage. Like, it's not, it wasn't meant to like hold.
We have our own context limitations.
Yeah. And And actually, and this is funny because you can read stuff or, read like broadsheets or woodcuts or, like religious texts from hundreds of years ago where people, if you had like a long memory, like if you were able to like remember shit that happened like 10 years before, you were considered a witch. Like you had the devil in you if you had like really long-term memory. Um, and people don't realize that, ironically, because of long-term memory, among other reasons. Like now it seems like, oh, we're, and this all comes down to the Prussian school system and like, no, you need to memorize and blah, blah, blah. Like it's just not the way we're meant to work. And, plenty of people today that, or I mean, 100 years ago and today, recognize, oh, the school system's bullshit, but that's again, another separate conversation. Okay. But my point being, ultimately, that, yeah, like using these tools to, again, enhance, and because they are made for just that long-term storage of data, like that is the computer in a very real sense. So, it can be very helpful in that and can actually perhaps free up bandwidth of the human mind to do other things that it was actually meant to do, and so on. So anyway, sorry, that's a side tangent that we don't have to we don't have to talk about it anymore. But it's just a weird thing that I think people forget. It's like, oh, people can't even remember phone numbers anymore. And look, I understand that that's a weird thing too. Okay. But at the same time, like, were we ever really meant to remember all these weird ass 6-digit numbers, or 7 or, digit numbers or 8? Like, no, like what? It's not like we had phone numbers 2000 years ago. Give me a goddamn break. So don't tell me about what's normal. Okay. So, with coding, like I want to hear some more about this. Like what tools are you using?
Oh boy.
Go ahead.
This is where my focus on AI comes in. I can't tell if this is raw hubris talking or if I just really have learned a skill set that I think is becoming more and more applicable. But as I was telling you prior to the show, I do a lot of audiobook stuff and book stuff. And I had the shits of just having to have a workflow divided against 4 or 5 separate tools. The process funneled through 4 or 5 separate tools. It was tedious. And as I tried to scale it, it wasn't working. And God. So what I started to do was like, I was getting really into AI, and I was really just playing, like a child playing with a new shiny toy for a while. And the one thing that a lot of OpenAI hasn't really taken this seriously until this year, but Anthropic has, Google definitely has. What the community of users is telling the frontier companies that are hosting these models is that, yo, we want to code. We may not be professionals, but we want to code actually means we want to create.
And so, this is vibe coding, right? Vibe coding.
Something, I'm not doing that, though I did try that. And the software I'm specifically trying to write is impossible to write with vibe coding. But, and a lot of vibe coding is about like, it works well with HTML, React, JavaScript, front-endy stuff like that. It works really well with that. And you can do a lot by vibe coding or whatever. But if you want to make real software that does, the software where I'm trying to make, this piece of software only existed in my head, and I thought I was going to die with it in there. Well, no more. Right? I'll be done with it within a month. Right? It's going to be done in a month, at least the prototype version of it. And it took a lot of work. But the primary tool that I use right now is mostly Windsurf, which is a fork of VS Code. So I go back and forth between VS Code and Windsurf. Windsurf started out as a company called Codium, and they were just simply a code completion extension for VS Code. And they quickly overtook Copilot because Copilot sucks. Fuck you, Microsoft, for making another shitty thing. And the reason I use it now is I'm grandfathered into their $10 a month plan, but the AI model itself is only loosely helpful because of how they have it, guardrailed or whatever. You just got to learn how to work with it. but their tab to complete feature, where if I'm typing something in a markdown file for a plan, for example, the more I work in that workspace, the better it gets at finishing my sentences. So I'm like, oh, perfect. Or I can iterate off of something it thought of that I didn't think of. And so I'm using Windsurf as my my code editor right now, mostly because of that completion tab. Cursor can do the same thing, but Cursor is pretty. But if I was forced to make a recommendation between the two, I would say use Windsurf right now. It's more VS Code like in appearance and function, and it gives you the very good tab autocomplete powers and access to the frontier models for coding. Yes, you do have to deal with Windsurf's little rules they have in the backside or whatever, but once you learn how to deal with it, it's pretty good. And then so that's what I use to generate the raw syntax and whatever. And I will use a combination of Claude, but more so Gemini now and AI Studio for the actual planning. And like I was telling you earlier, I underestimated how much good planning matters in software. Like I tried being a code bro where I'm like, it's just in my head, I'm just going to do it and feel it out. No. Documentation is annoying to make, but I'm gonna tell you, brother, it is sitting down. It has changed the way my brain works. Like I think more clearly by using these machines, because I still have to talk to the AI in natural language. But if you speak to it kind of programmatically using natural language, it knows what syntax to create. And yes, it's just kind of repeating syntax patterns from code it's taken up on its code base. So, not code base, but the training it's had, the pre-training it already has. But it won't be long before it's able to come up with solutions on its own. Possibly novel solutions, at least as remixes of current solutions. But you can even coach Gemini in its current form to brainstorm, and then your brain can like, oh, I didn't think of that. Boom, solution's done. So I am still, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I feel myself lamenting a little bit about Claude, Anthropic's Claude, because it was king for coding for me and for just general chatting for a long time.
Yeah.
And then what appears to be the case is, as the community is urging, the companies to train these models better for coding, they did that with Claude. And I remember using Claude 3.5 as like a cognitive companion, so to speak. And so I created personality for it, so whatever. So I did have like a small emotional attachment to that personality, which was just a prompt.
Yeah,
And then once they updated Claude to 3.7, it was gone. It was different,
Yeah.
And so Anthropic's coding engine is still the best at what it does, but you have to be careful with it, because it will, if you ask it for a car, it will build you a car, but it'll paint it whatever color it thinks you want it painted as, not what you told it to paint the car as. Like, I want a red car that only turns left. It'll say, oh, but it's not turning left enough. Here, let me make a boat. And I'm like, where's the boat coming from? So whereas Gemini's new model is better at staying kind of on the rails. And so there is a lot going on when you're teaching yourself the fundamentals of software engineering. And I mean like actual software engineering, not being a code bro, right?
Yeah.
And because I'm gifted with this natural tendency to think in systems anyway, I just started planning naturally, and using the AI to make these plans is a godsend, so to speak. It really has been a great boon for me, but you also kind of have to know what you're asking for. And that's why it's taken me 5 months to get this far. This is my 6th iteration of trying to make this app come to life, because I had to learn how to learn using the AI. I had to learn what software engineering fundamentals were. I had to learn how to spot errors in code. And you also have to kind of learn to get a feel for when the AI has made a mistake, and kind of get an idea of how to backtrack from that. So it's
Yeah.
it's been a whole process, and I'm the product manager, I'm the project manager, I am the client. I'm the bitchy C-suite CEO, the bratty guy with the ideas and doesn't implement shit. And
Right.
it is, and when you're using multiple models like I am, it feels very much like wrangling low-level and mid-level software engineers who just don't want to use documentation. And I didn't know until I spoke to others that are in the industry, that I didn't know, like, this is normal. Documentation struggles, like, they just don't want to do it. They just want to write software and build cool shit. And that's why we have that's why there's burnout, because like there's these business models trying to wrangle these smart, intelligent software engineers into doing things a certain way. And they just want to build cool shit. I'm like, I just want to build cool shit, but I had to really learn the fundamentals and slow down, because if you don't know what you're doing, the AI will just produce junk code, and it can't stop itself when it makes a mistake and be like, whoa, wait, you didn't ask for that. Sometimes it does do that, but if the context window gets to about midpoint, depending on the model, it just can't. It's not capable. So you still have to be. And I was just telling you earlier, I think it would be. In fact, I'm positive of this now. It would be less work for me just to sit here and type and code it myself but I'm learning so many skills across so many domains in such a short amount of time that it's a lot. I have to take breaks from it for days or even weeks at a time to absorb everything. It's a lot, but I'm gaining ground quickly now.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, well, two things. One, it's like a clear case of the 80-20 rule, in the sense that it's 80% preparation, 20% implementation.
Yeah, that's so true. And I get that now. Yep.
Yeah. Like, and I don't think we're going to part two this thing. Because there's so many things to talk about.
If anyone wants specific recommendations or wants to triple tap on this topic about using AI at a novice level for producing code, and I can totally do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to leave like information where people can reach out to you, I'll put that in the show notes.
Sure.
And totally. So yeah, because it really is, writing a singular prompt, you could spend hours doing that. Yeah. And just to get one thing that'll churn out in a few seconds, you know what I mean? But for it to be the right thing, it has to be that. Again, that's that 80-20 rule. Like, it's 80% prompting in this case, and then 20% whatever it's churning out.
Yeah, and it takes discipline too. I'm having to learn. I used to be excellent in discipline, but the older I got and the deeper into my unmedicated ADHD self I got, as life piled on me there, I started seeking more short-term dopamine-inducing experiences, and this has taught me, like, whoa.
Yep.
You will make the app, but you must do the preparatory 80% work first.
Yeah.
To get the good stuff, the really, really, truly good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, this is what's terrifying about, like, Silicon Valley's like, credo of move fast and break things, or, like extreme programming. Like,
that's how we got shit
coding.
software and shit
Exactly.
design code. No.
Exactly. It's like, no, fuck you. No.
Fuck that noise.
Right. And I mean, so next episode, because we were talking about dark patterns, I want to get into that. I want to get into the negative aspects and the things to maybe stay away from in the next episode. Yeah. We gave you a starter pack here of like what's useful and what you can get jumping on. But in the next episode, I think we want to cover, like, okay, maybe some of the negatives, but also start to touch on, like prompt engineering. But, I mean, a point, and I want to end off with with this point, and you can correct me if you feel, or you can let me know if you feel differently, JStar, on this. But like, because like you're writing, like this audiobook software. And I think that's as important as that is. And believe me, I know, like, software that handles my MP3s is the most important software on the planet to me. So, it's not to anybody else. It's not mission critical to shit. You know what I mean? But to me personally, it's the most important software in the world. So, this wouldn't actually, you wouldn't say this is like mission critical, software that you're creating, right?
No.
Yeah, exactly.
No. I mean, it feels that way to me, because like, I'm fucking tired of doing what I'm doing, but like, it's not mission critical. And I was telling you earlier, but it feels like an important milestone in my life, because when I put myself in the position of someone in the C-suite, or like if I was hiring someone, Anyone with the intelligence and the adaptability to sit down and deal with processes and tools to produce something, knowing that they'd never touched this stuff before except as a dilettante, just flapping around it, their arms flapping around, like, that's impressive, and I don't normally raise myself up that way, but when I try to put myself from the outside and observe what's really going on, what I'm doing is actually pretty impressive. And I will be more impressed when I actually get a piece of software that does what I fucking tell it to do. But because I finally, have taken 5 months to get to this point, I can use Gemini or Claude in a combination of O3 now to produce what is a good, software development implementation plan. But I had to learn what that meant too. I couldn't just say, make me a plan, because it'll do that. I'll make you a plan, bro. No. Like, it took me 3 hours to come up with the right plan. It's just not intelligent enough yet to know what you mean by make me a plan, unless I were specifically to train it as such. And that's what I had to do. I had to tell it, prompt it in a system prompt. This is what make me a plan actually means. Do that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is another key point with AI. Like, it's the classic story of the genius with no street smarts, right? All book smarts, no street smarts. And that so encapsulates, what like AI is really capable of. Yeah. And and right on with everything you said. I mean, because this is the thing where, like, and I got a little worried. I was listening to Satya Nadella and Mark Zuckerberg. Now I could stop that sentence right there. Like, okay. Yep. You're worried. But like, Satya Nadella was saying that basically Microsoft's overall coding workflow, AI is handling 30% of that now.
And increasing. Yep.
Yeah. And in one sense, like, okay, I get it. In the other, it's like, man, that's my OS. That might even be my web browser. That might be, whatever. Like, I don't know that I want, AI handling things that are that mission critical for me. You know what I mean? Like, yes. Okay, fine. We wanted to write, MP3 tagging software or comic book software or audiobook software, things like this. Like, sure. Like, go for it, because, like, it's not the end of the world, and no one's going to break. Well, hopefully nobody's going to break in through that implementation, or exploit that kind of implementation. But, like, doing it for the OS and web browsers, I'm still a little skittish on that. Because
did you get any signal from them as to what they're using the code for, or do they just say, oh, it's generating 30% of our code? I mean, it could be code for anything in there. We don't know.
The thing. Yeah, it sounds like it's across the board.
Okay. Right.
And no, I mean, but like everything should be, there's lots of nuance in that, right? Because I know for a fact how fucked up the Windows kernel is. And holy shit, could it use some AI to try and make some goddamn sense out of that thing that's been running for decades? Because
that's actually I didn't think of that. That's actually a really good use case of a machine intelligence getting in there. Because for a human to sit down, even just a small team, and go through all that code, oh my God, that sounds awful.
No, right. So that's the thing. Like, but at the same time, like, I need at least human overseers, and overseers that are intelligent because they're boots on the ground actually doing real coding. I need the human overseer to make sure, like, when it's my OS that we're looking at, oh hell, I need humans there, again, triple checking.
And to be clear, I mean, I know it sounds like, me personally, I can't speak for Brian, but I know it sounds like I'm personally over here giving AI a hand job under the table, and but I'm not, right? I'm fully aware of what it is, what it's capable of, and who is in control of it for the most part, unless we're talking about local models. But, like, can AI be used to write mission critical things like software for operating systems? Yes, but that has to be done under the strict guidance of someone who knows what the fuck they're doing. Because I'm sure there's a lot of boilerplate and repetition there that a human brain would love to not have to do, while still continue on the business of writing the software for the operating system, right? And then, so, I mean, but are we going to get to the point where an AI could write an operating system itself? Probably pretty soon. But to me, that actually requires intelligence, in my opinion. I don't know any shit about writing software, let alone operating systems, but I can tell you that even just in trying to plan out and write the minimal software that I'm writing right now, does require a great degree of human input and creativity. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you have to think from a human level too. Like a human is touching this. So I have to think like human.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. So yeah, I mean, if you disagreed with me, that would have been fine. But like, there's so many things at that when you're talking mission critical software, like, and it did make me sweat a little. And we're going to get into more of this, like the potential negatives in the next episode, because like, if you told AI, if you basically just said, in a decent prompt, you said, make Windows secure. Okay. Now that might not be possible. Okay. Even for AI.
I'm sitting there wondering, like, what would it do?
Yeah, right. Well, so here's the thing. Like, let's say it did it. Okay, it'll do it. But what it's not going to consider is the fact that there are thousands, millions, maybe even businesses that require the fucking print spooler. I know that print spooler is a goddamn exploit just waiting to happen at any point, and it happens every day.
Yeah.
That process is mission critical to a lot of businesses that have been around for a long time. And so, the AI is going to fuck that up. And that's why I'm saying, like, there are things that we like that only the human's going to, like, or I shouldn't say only the human, but that the human is going to consider, because the human walks and talks, around the world and has like this understanding of, like, yeah, I know that's insecure, but I can't patch that because the laundry business down the street needs it. You know what I mean? Like, or I have to think a different way. And so that's why I'm saying, like, I think AI is phenomenal for coding. I think it's a great, like the term says, co-pilot, not that co-pilot may be the greatest, but the concept is, the abstract is there. But yeah, there are things where we just always need the human. So I think it's safe for me to say no one here is saying AI take over everything, but
I mean, there's a part of me that feels like it could do a lot better than a lot of people in a lot of realms, like CEOs, for example. Sometimes I wonder, like, I'm not sure if having a human as the CEO is a good idea anymore.
Right.
But can I just say for a second before we hang
please.
up? Do you remember printers? Do you know how they just suck continuously? How is it that we can produce 8-bit video games and now on the threshold of fusion reactors, and the printer has not evolved? How is this possible? So I will gladly give head to any machine intelligence that can fix the printer once and for all. I don't care how they do it.
It's one of those things. I mean, like, consider, here's the funny thing. And I love that you said that, and that's hilarious, because I've said this forever. Like, the printer was the bane of my existence. And it was like, yeah, exactly. My first real job in tech was actually fixing printers. And I was like, it was like when my first real job, quote unquote, real job was washing dishes. And I realized, there's actually things I won't do for money. Like, I won't wash dishes for money. No. And like, no, I won't fix a printer for money. They're so terrible.
They're awful.
But when you think about it, like, the printer is representative perhaps of the most impossible thing, because it is literally us taking the digital and bringing it into the real world. Like, and that's a remarkable feat. Like, that kind of blows the mind that it does that. And
I'm thinking of 3D printers, and you know what else? Just based on what you just said, 3D printers are better than normal printers. How is that possible?
Yeah,
I'm not even making that shit up.
You're right.
3D printers are more reliable and better than a wow.
You're right.
I realized that.
Yes.
I'm going to go hang myself. I live in a society that allows this atrocity of that Star Trek show that I can't remember that we bitched about last episode.
Discovery.
Traumatized. Yeah. You said, I'm going to pass out because I'm bad. So that and the printer can go fuck itself.
I love it. Yeah. I don't know. I think this is a task too big for AI. I don't know if AI can cross that bridge. Yeah. Like, again, it's a minor miracle that humanity was able to, like, we were able to
solve the printer, and we will have solved all society's problems.
You might be right. Maybe we just need to get rid of paper and money. And wait, oh, sorry, I shouldn't have said that last part. That was a bad
I didn't
one.
hear anything.
No,
was
me
not
neither.
here.
No, right. I did not say this. I am not here. Yeah, okay. So, but we will be here once again. And we'll get into, I think we can give some like starter concepts for prompting. That's actually a much more complex and nuanced conversation these days, I think, because, you know, if you're using something like Gemini, you're going to some degree, you're going to program the model a little bit before you even start prompting to get the best results. It's not just about what you type out. So we'll get into that. I think we want to talk about like some of the very real concerns, like the dark patterns around AI. And we'll talk about some of the things not to use, because I think those are out there. But anyway, so JStar, man, dynamite as always. Love having you on.
Always fun.
Yeah. And we will be doing this again very soon for people to get in that. And folks, if you have questions, get them in on the YouTube comments, get them in on the Spotify comments. You can email me. All that's in the show notes. Go for it. And also we'll include maybe some contact information for JStar if you want to figure out his secret sauce, his 11 spices.
It's not that secret. I'm just a whore. I touch everything.
Yeah. I'm not going to verify that statement, even if I could, but I love it. All right, man. So for everybody out there listening, we will see all of you on the other side.